Hey YouTube, Gonzo38 here. Today we're going to talk about shotgun slugs for home defense. Now before you guys start beating me up, I understand that slugs penetrate walls, all that other good stuff. So, if you want to beat me up, go ahead and make those comments. We'll deal with that. But I've been working on some home defense loads. I've got a 7/8 ounce slug. This is hand cast in a Lee mold. I also have some 00 buck. It's also hand cast out of Lee molds. It was actually pretty simple to do, a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be for the buckshot. Of course, the slugs, piece of cake. They actually fly pretty nice. They're fairly accurate. So what we've been doing is some combination shells. I've been doing a slug with 3 pieces of 00 buck, or a slug with 5 pieces of No. 4 buckshot. I prefer the No. 4 buckshot for home defense. I've only got a few here. So these are about the size of a .22 caliber bullet with half as much weight. They weigh about 20 grains each. You can get 27 of them in a 2 3/4 inch shotgun shell. So they don't have a lot of kinetic energy for piercing through walls and stuff like that. They actually slow down pretty quickly. But what we're gonna load up today are actually the 00 buck with the slugs, and we're gonna take them out to the range and shoot them. So what I've been using these Fiachi shells. Fiachi, however you want to say it. They actually come with a primer in them, but I can't use that primer. You have to use a Magnum shot shell primer. So I've been using the CCI Magnum shot shell primers for this particular load. I'm using 32 grains of HS6 Hodgdon powder. And I'm using the Federal wad columns, the brown ones. These are, I have to put my reading glasses on, sorry guys. 12.64, or I'm sorry, 12S4, 12 gauge, 1 1/4 ounce loads. So these are good for some pretty heavy loads. Like I said, we've got 7/8 of an ounce in the slug, and 3 pieces of buckshot. Doesn't weigh that much. I didn't throw them in the scale, so I can't tell you. But they're actually a pretty simple load. Show you one. I'm using a mech loader. This is 600 or 650. I'm not sure anymore which one it is. It was bought many moons ago, probably 20 or so years ago. But it's real simple process. What you got to do is knock the primer out. And because we're doing slugs, we're not using the shot drop. If I were doing small shot, No. 4 shot, or No. 8 shot, No. 9 shot, something like that, bird shot, we would go ahead and put that back on there. But we're just dropping powder, basically. We're crushing and knocking out primers. We're repriming. So it's a pretty simple process. First thing you want to do is knock the primer out, resize the base of the casing. We're also not using the automatic drop for the primer. We're going to do that by hand. That's because it drops primer every time you pull the casing, because it's a progressive press. So anyway, what we're going to do on the second round is we seat the primer. Bar drops the powder. I heard the powder drop, but just in case, I'm going to give it a little tap there. All right. I'm going to use the Federal wads that we were talking about. Throw the slug right down inside there, and get them in there pretty easily. by hand, just like that. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull this shell out of here just for the camera. What we're going to do is we're going to drop in 3 pellets of 00 buck. Now you can see that one doesn't quite fit in there. I don't know if you can see that or not. So what I do is I just take my finger and kind of press them down. They hold themselves in there then. And nice triangular formation. We're just going to go ahead and cycle the press a little bit. We're using a 6 crimp on this particular shell. On some of the shells I use an 8 crimp. These are actually the Lyman slugs. They kind of look like a big pellet. I use the 8 crimp on that because they're not as deep. But basically it's the same load as what I'm doing here. 32 grains of powder, CCI Magnum shell, and the Federal wads. So we got a crimp on there. We're going to go ahead and crush our crimp down. The last step is to form the end of the shell. It kind of crushes it in and takes the deformation out of it. But that mech loader does a really good job. Now that shell had already been loaded and fired one time before. This is a fresh shell. We're going to knock that primer out. Again, we don't need that primer. Not for this. I actually use them in my muzzle loader later on. But go ahead and put our primer in there. Seat the primer. Drop the powder. Wad. Slug. Push that right down in there just like that. And drop 3 pellets. Again, I'm just going to seat them with my finger a little bit. Going to rotate it. Put that right in my way, didn't I? For anybody who hasn't done shotgun shells, that's the first crimp. That crimper, like I said, it's a 6-fold. Takes it, put the little creases in there. Now I'm going to have to cycle it back to where I want it. On that particular one, it takes it and crushes it down, but you see it's not quite perfect. It kind of bulges out and it's not quite round. On the last crimp, it's going to force that in nice and neat and re-round the outside edge of that. So there you go. We got 4 loaded up. We're going to take these out to the range and shoot them at some steel. Peace. Hey YouTube, we made it down to the range today to check out the shotgun shells that you watched me make earlier. We've got our target set out at 20 yards over here. We're going to go ahead and take the slug buckshot combination and load it up in my trusty Benelli. Get my ears on, eyes on. It's one of my favorite shotguns. I've had this thing since about 1995. Never failed to go bang. Let's see if it cycles. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know if you can see that. I'll show it later on. There's a slug hole dead center of the target. There's one at about 7 o'clock. There's one at right about 3 o'clock, and there's another pellet right at 12 o'clock. So, got everything right in his chest. That's what I'm talking about. Leave your comments down below. Peace. God bless. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if you can see that. I'll show it later on. There's a slug hole dead center of the target. There's one at about 7 o'clock. There's one at right about 3 o'clock. And there's another pellet right at 12 o'clock. So you got everything right in his chest. That's what I'm talking about. Leave your comments down below. Peace. God bless. Now that's going to leave a mark. Hey YouTube, this is Guns with 38. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you very much. Guns with 38 out.